This is The Cut, American whiskey, daily. 360 bottles, one weekend only. A Texas blending house just finished an 8-year barrel-proof bourbon in barrels built by the state's first ever cooperage, and Presale opens tomorrow morning for $70 a bottle. I'm John from Chasing the Unicorn podcast. Here's what moved today. August 21, 2026. Today's big move is out of Texas, and it's a real supply chain first, not just another scarcity drop. Koopers whiskey just finished an 8-year straight bourbon, distilled up in Indiana at MGP, a 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% malted barley recipe, in toasted barrels built from Texas-grown white oak. Those barrels came from standard cooperage in Blanco, Texas. That's the part worth sitting with. Texas has never had its own cooperage until now. Only 2 casks went into this. That's 360 bottles, bottled at 114.8 proof, priced at $70. Presale opens tomorrow, Saturday, at 11 a.m., online and at Cooper's Ledbetter Tasting Room, with bottles shipping around September 1st. Here's why it's bigger than a limited run. The industry's been circling one question for years. Does regional wood actually change the whiskey? Or is that a story we tell ourselves while we drink? A 360 bottle sample can't settle that scientifically, but a working Texas cooperage getting real commercial use is a genuine milestone either way. And at $70 for barrel-proof, age-stated bourbon with a traceable new wood source, this is a strong bottle even before you factor in the novelty. Now, today's flight. Every Friday, I put 2 bottles side by side and tell you which one you actually buy. Today, it's not 2 different releases. It's the same release, 1 year apart. Because the loudest argument in the community right now is about a bottle that didn't get better or worse. It just got different. Beam Suntory's Old Overholt Extra Aged Cask Strength just dropped its 4th annual edition, and it stepped backward on paper. Last year's bottle carried a 12-year age statement at 117 proof. This year's is 11 years old, and it came out of the barrel at 125.6 proof. A year younger and almost 9 points hotter at the same $109.99 price tag. Rye drinkers online split into 2 camps fast. One side says this is nothing. Barrel lots vary, and Beam just pulled from a different set of barrels this cycle. The other side says a well-tracked series stepping backward on age, with no explanation from the brand, is exactly the kind of quiet signal that shows up before things get tighter. Here's my read, and it leans toward the boring explanation being the right one. If a distillery were actually stretching thin, aging barrel stock to cover a shortage, the move is to cut it with water and ship it lower proof. Stretch the whiskey further, not less. This bottle went the opposite direction. Younger, but hotter. That's not the fingerprint of scarcity. That's the fingerprint of a different barrel lot getting picked for the blend. If you've still got last year's 12-year, 117 proof bottle on your shelf, this is the year to pour them side by side. The gap is wide enough to actually taste, and you'll learn more from that pour than from anything either camp is arguing online. Now, today's first sip, on the word doing a lot of work in that story, cooperage. So here's what it is. Most drinkers never think about who actually built the barrel. In practice, 3 companies dominate it. Independent Stave is the giant. It supplies most of the big Kentucky distilleries out of Missouri and Kentucky facilities. Speyside Cooperage is a Scottish company that opened a Louisville branch back in 2015, aimed squarely at premium American whiskey. And Kelvin Cooperage, family run out of Louisville, is known for the custom char and toast specs craft distillers reach for. White oak supply has been tight for over a decade. It's a real part of why barrel costs have roughly tripled since 2010. So when a brand new cooperage opens anywhere, let alone in a state that's never had one, that's not decoration on a label. That's a real supply chain claim. What this changes: the next time a label mentions a specific cooperage by name, treat it the way you'd treat a distillery credit, not a marketing flourish. If you're logging pours, tag the cooperage in your logbook on the Perfect Pour app. It's available now, and Pour Print starts showing you which barrel source you actually gravitate toward once you've logged a few. Also in this window, one more bottle worth knowing about this week. Maker's Mark just filed the 4th annual cellar-aged release, landing on shelves September 1st at $175. It's a blend of 11, 12, and 14-year-old wheated bourbon, matured in the brand's limestone cellar and bottled at cask strength, 112.1 proof. Here's why it's worth your attention. This year's blend carries the highest proportion of 14-year-old whiskey the series has ever used. That's a real signal from a brand whose flagship bottle carries no age statement at all. It tells you Makers has genuine depth sitting in that cellar, not just enough for one good vintage. If cask strength wheater is your thing, this is the one to watch for on September 1st. before it turns into next year's secondary conversation. So here's the one thing to take with you today. A missing year on a label and a new cooperage in Texas are really the same story told two ways. Barrel wood and barrel timing shape everything about what ends up in your glass, long before a bottle ever reaches a shelf. Pay attention to those decisions, not just the tasting notes, and you'll read the next surprise bottle a lot better than the internet does. That's The Cut. The full American whiskey industry brief is free every morning at chasingtheunicornpodcast.com. I'm John Schuster. Thanks for joining me. Your unicorn is out there.